you listening?
What is happening, folks? Welcome to the Craic'n Coachin podcast. I'm here with Emmett, and well, we're both coming to terms with being sleep deprived, slightly from opposite ends. How are you doing today, Emmett? Or this morning?
Good, mate. Just waking up here. Not too sleep deprived, but I'm just not used to jumping straight on, having to speak to someone and be coherent in the morning. Just usually up, especially with the water on the face, get ready, get some food, and go to the gym. So, but we're here. We're giving early Sunday morning, and this is your Saturday evening as well. All for the cause.
Yeah, we've decided to switch it up. Emmett's been nice enough to change his routine for me, mainly because I am catching a flight to Barcelona in the morning. And I know, as much as I wanted to be like, oh, this podcast coming live from Barcelona, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I thought I'd just get it done before we leave. And I spent
stuff.
Yeah, that's it too. I spent 3 weeks actually trying to set everything up so that you can actually understand me, hear me, and it visually looks nice. And then I'm just going to rock up in some random Airbnb in Barcelona with dodgy camera, shit microphone, and bad internet as well, guaranteed.
Yeah, well, let's go.
Do me a favor. Okay. Well, actually, do you know what? I think some of the viewers have interest in this kind of stuff. I don't really, but I'd like to know, because then I can talk to my clients about it. Update me on Liverpool. What's happening? I heard you screaming earlier.
Oh, because you kindly let me eat some food and get myself going, get myself awake, and I watched the highlights while I was eating. Liverpool actually won. I couldn't believe it. It's just got to the stage where you're watching a Liverpool match and you expect the worst. So stuck it on, and Liverpool won 2-0. 17-year-old Rio and Gamoa. Unbelievable for a 17-year-old kid. He started and scored a beautiful goal, so I was happy with that. And then Mo Salah scored, the old guard, and then that's Rio and Gamoa as the new guard. So maybe the future is still bright. As a Liverpool fan, give me a little bit of hope. It's a hope that kills you.
Very interesting to hear such a young age get into football, isn't it? Like at 17, I don't think I could be standing on a pitch in front of millions like that and be that famous as well.
It's mental when you think about it. 17 years of age, still a kid, probably still you're still in school at 17, and he's playing alongside some of the best footballers in the world.
We actually have a client in the gym at the minute. It's one of Finn's clients, but her wee brother is a footballer, and I think he's on the Northern Ireland team, something like that. There, I haven't really paid much attention, but she says the amount of older women trying to get stuck into him is ridiculous, like 30 to 40 year olds, and she's like trying to be like, oh, he needs to be taught not to do that. Like they're just there to steal his money.
Yeah, well, toy boy.
Yeah, it must be frightening at that age to be making fucking whatever amount of money, and then there's just people left, right and centre.
Frightening to have a load of middle-aged women after you.
I didn't even know how to talk to girls being my age. Never mind. So I'd be like, oh, must be my ma's mate. Literally, mate. I'm pretty sure Rihanna just picked me up off the street one day. I had no other choice. You're mine. Okay. Fuck. Anyway, well, we'll get stuck in the Falkland Lay and get stuck into this week's topic.
We will. Falkland Lay today. Coachin. Progress. I don't believe we've used it. I thought we might have done.
Sounds similar. Yeah.
Is
it similar to something?
Because if we've used it before, we'll go with Eracht, which is trying. And that will lead us nicely into today's topic. We're going to be speaking about why you're not progressing in the gym, despite your efforts, despite trying, despite showing up, why you're not progressing. So we're going to dive into that today. Now, why you're not progressing is going to come down to one of three things: your training, your nutrition, your lifestyle. So we'll break each of those down. Some common mistakes that people make. And
I'm definitely not as organised as Emma is for this one. I've sort of organised myself for the mini pod, as we're calling it.
Looking forward to the mini pod as well.
So I've just got multiple off the cuff comments wrote down on my notes here. So I'll jump in whenever I feel like they're appropriate.
Just jump in whenever, mate. But we'll break down the like training and the sort of common things issues that come up for people, and offer maybe some solutions around each of them. Like as you said a couple of weeks ago, training, nutrition, and lifestyle / recovery is going to be the three main pillars. And if
everything
you're not
falls under
progressing,
them,
you're definitely going to be missing out on at least one of these. So maybe start with training first, and why you're not progressing despite showing up to the gym training. Because we know there's a big difference between showing up and just making it to the gym, and making sure that time in the gym spent productively and going towards making progress.
Okay, so I think we should get all the normal ones out of the way, maybe try and add a wee bit to them. So what do we see as the normal reasons people are not progressing from training?
I would say the first one, the most common, is being able to train close to failure. So everyone thinks that they train hard. If you ask anyone, do you train hard? No one's going to say no, are they, really? But when you actually see people in the gym, you realise that majority of people don't know how to train hard, and their understanding or how they can actually gauge what training hard looks like is quite poor. So proximity to failure and your effort in the gym is what's going to allow you to reach those effective reps. The last reps that are close to failure are deemed the effective reps, because that's when you're recruiting the most motor units, when you're going to create the most tension for the muscle. You need to be reaching those end reps. You need to be seeing the concentric speed of your reps slow down involuntarily, and that's a good indicator that you're training hard enough. If that's not happening, then you're probably not training hard. It's not a subjective thing, of doing as much as you can, maybe resting very little between sets, just pumping out as much as reps as humanly possible, doing drop sets, superset and everything, and just racking up a load of junk volume and fatiguing yourself so you leave the gym with a sweat, feeling like you were productive, that was a good session. But in reality, you haven't actually trained close to failure, so what you're doing wasn't definitely going towards any sort of muscle building. So train hard, in essence, is your ability to take the muscle close to failure while keeping tension on it. I think that's an important point as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's the longer you can stay in a set, the more you're going to get from it, realistically. Maybe that's oversimplifying it. But another one I would definitely love to add to that there, just as a wee caveat, would be there's a big difference between mechanical failure and actually training to failure. So some people, I think, go the opposite direction, where they let form actually break down very easily, and in doing so they're just trying to find an easy way out. And this is genuine hours of just watching people train, like day in day out with my clients. You'll see, especially newbies, like they're on a chest press, for example, and they start doing that like the left hand's going up, the right hand's going up, and that's one of my first teaching points. Any of the clients will tell you that there is that you need to stay exactly where you are and just keep moving through that path, the path of most resistance, I guess.
Yeah,
you're not trying to find the path of least resistance.
That's very common too. So if you're changing any variable just for the sake of getting the rep up, or to take a quote unquote progression in your logbook, like shifting your body, using momentum, using less range of motion than you normally would just to get that extra rep, you've actually made it easier, and you've taken the tension off the muscle that you're trying to work, defeating the purpose completely. So as Donald said, you need to be able to lean in, learn to lean into that pain, into that discomfort, and keep that tension on the muscle. Those are the effective reps we're speaking about.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You could dive in all day to how much you can get out of a straight set, but that's
Exactly.
as simple as it is. It's just a straight set to failure will get you more than what, like you said yourself there, any sort of fucking random junk volume will get you.
But just to summarise that one, like, it's about standardising your execution as much as possible, even when it gets hard. That is what's difficult. That's what training hard is. Like, being able to keep everything standardised, keep the tension on the muscle when it's screaming at you, to do the opposite. You have to remember your body doesn't want to change, so you have to force those adaptations by making it uncomfortable. If you stop as soon as it gets uncomfortable, you're not training hard. You're essentially wasting your time in the gym.
Yeah, you're genuinely fighting thousands of years of evolution with most things to do with bodybuilding, from diet the whole way through the training, and we're so good at adapting to find the path of least resistance on everything. So yeah, fucking don't be a gimp and lean into your sets and just, suck it up, buttercup.
But how do you know, like, if someone's listening going, how do I know if I'm training hard enough? Is your concentric rep speed slowing down? The only difference between the first and the last rep should be the speed of the concentric, because it's slowing down involuntarily. You're not trying to slow it down on purpose. It happens as a byproduct of the muscle becoming more fatigued and actually taking that target muscle to failure.
Yeah, and
So
just to add that there as well, if you are genuinely sitting there and again questioning that, even of like, are my reps slowing down? This is where I guess the next big point probably comes into it is, are you videoing your sets? Are you looking back and reviewing your training? Is your coach reviewing your training?
Yeah, that's probably the lowest hanging fruit, isn't it, to assess that. And like, you always know when you look back at your set and you start recording your sets, it looks a lot different than it actually felt. So you might look at it and say, yeah, I definitely had actually a couple more there, if I'm being honest with myself. Or form broke down a bit sooner. I need to make sure I'm tidying up that execution before maybe adding a bit more load. An equal point, I would say, and this annoys me, this is one of my gripes in the gym, is training beyond failure is fake hard training. What I mean by that is having someone spot you for an extra, say, 5 forced reps that you didn't have on your own might look cool and it might look like you're training hard, but what's that actually doing for you?
So I would say this first came into my training whenever I first discovered JP, and he had talked about your ability to log, and basically anything that's tracked is measured, but how do you track somebody else spotting you? I'm not totally against it, mainly because like new starts and stuff like that, they're getting a wee bit more of their sets grand if the person that's spotting you knows what they're doing. Like for me example, like it's consistently trialed through it, weeks upon weeks of understanding how much load to take off somebody, etc. But a randomer in the gym that is literally screaming at you, come on, you've got 2 more,
And
he's getting a pump himself.
But not only that, even subconsciously, you don't have to work as hard to get those reps if someone's over watching you, I think, as well. So you know they're going to help you. And then you're just creating a load of unnecessary fatigue that's going to negatively impact the quality of the remaining sets you do in the gym. So if you took a look at like total net volume, total stimulus across an entire session, if you're taking 4 reps, those couple of big compound exercises, then the rest is probably going to tail off and the quality's going to be shit. So although you might be training to what you deem to be failure, you're not going to be getting as much out of the consequent work because of all those force reps you took. That's I don't like force reps.
Sir, as a intermediate, advanced, even beginner trainer by yourself, you probably shouldn't be taking them. I also don't think that it's very productive for the logbook. I know some people are, again, they argue about the logbook, but I think it's probably one of our best pieces of data.
Yeah, just don't get
What
too
is-
emotionally attached to it.
No, I want them plus ones. I want them. I actually have a 0.25 increment plates there that I add to my barbell every week. So I have to get an increase no matter what.
Little micro loading. Is that
Yeah.
your method of progression? Is that your
Every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I bought those a long time ago as that idea. Like I'm gonna progress every single session, every single lift. But that's whenever I was looking at 2 pillars. Instead, I should have been looking at 3. So I was looking at how many reps I was getting, so my volume, and I was looking at the load. Whereas I should have been looking at that 3rd pillar a wee bit more specifically, which is my form.
Yeah, the quality, because that's all. Again, we'll go into that as well. Progressive overload being misunderstood, I think that's a big thing. In fact, we can just dive into it now. I'm just going to dive into execution first, because it's probably something that needs to be considered before you're looking at progressing. But a mistake is having a poor understanding of progressive overload, just trying to add weight for the sake of it to every session, every single week. Progressive overload doesn't cause muscle growth, it's the result of it. So that's a really nice way. Progressive overload doesn't cause muscle growth, it's the result of it. A nice analogy I've seen of this as well is if you get a raise in a promotion at work, it doesn't make you better at your job. You get better at your job and then you get a promotion. Muscle growth works in the same way. So you build muscle, and as a result of the new tissue that you've grown, you need more load to create the same amount of stimulus for adaptations to continue to take place. So it's not an adaptation, it's the outcome of an adaptation already happening. So you're being exposed to a stimulus and you need to increase that stimulus for adaptations to continue to occur through adding more load. Of course, I think you should be striving to add more weight and add more reps to your sets. But it's not the case of like what Donald said. Hopefully he was joking. Of every single exercise, every single week, I have to add 2.5 kilos to that lift. Not necessarily. I don't think you should be adding load every single week. I think there's other forms of progression, like connection to the muscle, improved execution, range of motion, tempo, all those things. And if they're getting better and you're connecting to the muscles better and your stimulus is better, that is also a form of progressive overload. Yeah,
a nice way I like to think about it is that I think about me whenever I was younger, trying to do that there, and I almost see it as disrespectful because it needs to be earned and you need to respect the weight. You also need to respect that you are not ready for it yet, and that's why I look at it now, is that if I want to lift a heavier weight, then I need to earn it, and that is a way for me to show respect to my future self, who is going to get there at some point, that is going to be able to have that ability to lift it correctly, but I'm just not ready yet, and that's it. But I think we kept that one off quite well. What was the next one you had there?
Execution.
Run straight into that, like, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean the overarching factor to building muscle, as we've touched on, is mechanical tension. That is like the umbrella that underpins everything. So the reason you're trying to progressively overload, the reason you're striving for that, is to create more mechanical tension. Mechanical tension is what is going to result in hypertrophy. So it means placing as much tension on the muscle as possible. How do you do that? By accurately being able to take the set to failure. Not just being able to take it to failure, but doing it with accuracy, keeping tension on the target muscle. So people might be training hard, they might be doing the first thing right in terms of their intensity, might be high, but if they're not training accurately, they're wasting a lot of that effort.
We see this across the board as well. We see guys that are fucking really, really strong and just have these really strange proportions. It's almost like JP. JP is like, he calls himself like a shit bodybuilder because of that, because he has like some enormous body parts and other ones are like behind.
Yeah. But what would be the common mistakes you would see for execution? generally?
Understanding of anatomy. And I've wrote down a point here, and this sort of bypasses it, which is just overcomplicating things. But the most basic thing you can do is understand the anatomy and what you're trying to do. Yeah, like what you expect to happen versus what is actually being executed is two completely different things. And just because you're performing an exercise doesn't mean that that muscle's being worked. So you should have a basic understanding of anatomy. I don't think it should be so deep dive that it confuses you, but it should be the chest does this.
Yeah,
like
you
do you know what I mean?
You don't need to buy a skeleton, go and buy a skeleton after this. But if you know how a muscle shortens, how it contracts, and even just feeling that, for example, pack fly, when you're in that fully shortened position and your pack's shortened and you feel that contract and that squeeze, if you like, for a contraction, and knowing when the muscle is fully lengthened. So for example, at the bottom of a dumbbell press, you're feeling the stretch of the pack at the bottom of a squat, at the bottom of an RDL. So understanding when a muscle is lengthening and when it is contracting and shortening, and being able to then take it through that full contractile range. So it's not even you don't even have to have a understanding too much of anatomy, but if you have an understanding of your own body and your own training, and you know where those endpoints are, and you're going to be able to train then effectively and take that muscle through its full range.
That's exactly what I was actually about to mention there. Endpoints. Actually understanding that, especially with depth, there's only so much you can get out of a muscle before you end up leading into, like, as plays people like that are maybe a wee bit more flexible or even lack muscle mass. Like, doing the whole makers of tail thing doesn't actually work very well for most people. You know, where you're going full raw.
Makers of tail thing. Oh yeah. So like,
you ever see something like?
Yeah, like for example, maybe the one you're maybe thinking of is when he's performing a incline cable curl with the bench almost flat or at a slight decline.
Yes,
I've seen that one. Obviously,
there's the chest fly as well.
Yeah, more range of motion isn't always better. Essentially, like your active range is different from full range, so train your muscle through your active range of motion, not just thinking that more range of motion is going to be better, because everyone's structurally built differently, and what is my end range is going to be different from what Donald's end range or someone else's end range might be on a given exercise.
I would jump to our next point being the complete opposite of that there. So if you don't understand it, then there's going to be the people on the other side of the fence that almost overly complicate it. They understand too much, and this starts to cause paralysis. You know, they're trying to find the most perfect way to train.
Yeah, and where do you think this comes from? Is paralysis, banalysis, which I see a lot, and I was probably someone that suffered from that myself at times, and wanting to always strive for like better and optimal. To throw a buzzword in, but it's probably influenced a lot, I would say, by social media influencers you see, who are pumping out this sort of content of what you should be doing, or maybe speaking in absolutes. You know, it's never really black and white. It's something you should probably understand. Like, it's always a bit of a grey area when it comes to training hypertrophy, and like there's always an individual aspect to it. So it's never like, if someone's speaking in absolutes of this is how you do this, it's probably a load of shit. But overconsumption of information as well, like just consuming too much information, maybe not the right sources of information, and listening to other outside external noises. Maybe like listen to your coach, and like don't overcomplicate things for yourself by going down these rabbit holes. I'm speaking from experience here as well.
To just quote Atomic Habits, I would say you're more worried about motion than you are action. And I would also say that the reason why people dive into this here so deeply is because they're not seeing progress, and they're not committing. You know, the big reason why you probably don't, well, one's probably education, but two is that you see muscle mass growing now. So you're going to double down on everything you're currently doing.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So that's like, again, another point. Time and consistency in the game, and being able to stick to one approach for long enough is going to be a lot better than chopping and changing things. In the search for optimal and doing that, it's a bit counterproductive, because you're not being consistent enough with one approach to get skilled enough to create enough tension to see if that approach actually works, because you're too busy changing it all the time. So like program hopping, chasing trends, they're all counterproductive. When you realise, this is something that's give me a lot of clarity and freedom, when you realise it all works, everything works, that should be freeing in and of itself. So then it's just about finding an approach that you enjoy, that you're going to be able to adhere to consistently for a long period of time, and that's it.
I have tried to draw it home to so many people. See, especially whenever you first start, it doesn't matter what avenue you're about to go down. See, until you get to the crossroads, it doesn't matter at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like commit to eating habits, commit to training habits, commit to lifestyle routines, habits. Like up until you get that wee crossroads of, actually, do you know what, I want to go be a bodybuilder, or I'm gonna do high rocks, or I'm gonna be a fighter, whatever it is you're gonna do. Like, you don't really need to get that specific. You probably find this specificity in the sport, in reality.
Yeah. So you can probably, it's just about finding a consistent approach that you can stick to for a long period of time, especially as a beginner, as you've touched on. Like, you're gonna grow. You're gonna grow doing fucking anything. You're gonna grow doing burpees as a beginner.
Yeah.
So
like, everything is stimulus.
But like that specificity does come from like probably years down the line, and when you're maybe going from that intermediate to advanced level, and you need a bit more specificity towards your goals, that's when that can have its place. But other than that, like being a bit more broad and exploring different things is definitely you're going to be better served doing that, I think.
110%.
But to like almost recap on execution side of things, the common mistakes would be like no respect for the eccentric, using excess momentum, performing half reps and not reps be changing rep to rep. And then what actually good execution looks like in practice is your setup. So setting things up correctly. Like that's where good execution starts from. If things aren't set up correctly, then execution can't follow. Range of motion, again, working through your active range, making sure you're controlling, especially on the eccentric, like on like the negative portion of the rep, there needs to be a level of control there. Standardizing your tempo, and then like standardizing everything that encompasses that, your range of motion, your control, your tempo, across all lifts.
You just absolutely smashed an pet peeve of mine, to be honest. There, I didn't really think of, but it was actually locking in your setup. That, like, chopping and changing your setup every single week, whether it's an angle, your bench, even just not being like in the set. I have way too many videos sent across to me where it's the first 40 seconds of them talking to their mate, and then 2 seconds have to do a set here, and they jump in, and I'm like, yeah. I'm just like, fucking, oh. It actually does. It grinds my gears so much. So much. Like, commit to the set. And it's also how you get good enough to train less.
Yeah, so you don't have to do high amounts of volume, because the sets that you're doing are of high quality. You're getting more from less. So like, more isn't always better in terms of volume. If we look at volume, better is better.
You're gonna get that tattooed on me.
Do, mate. More isn't better. Better is better. Mistakes with volume. We can look at volume as well. Again, volume's just, what I would quantify volume as is the dose. It's measured by the amount of hard sets you perform in the gym. Mistakes when it comes to volume, both ends of the spectrum. You're either doing too much that you can't recover from, and it just becomes junk volume, or you're doing too little that's not enough to stimulate growth. I usually find that too little is more common, because probably the top set back off set approach, which is popular amongst bodybuilders who have a lot of muscle tissue, who are very highly skilled at training and actually putting tension on that target muscle, and then maybe a general population is trying to do that, trying to do a top set, back off set approach, but they don't really warrant doing it because their level of accuracy in those sets and their level of quality isn't there yet, so maybe they need a bit more volume to get the same amount of stimulus.
To troubleshoot that, I think that current problem is actually coming more from coaches than it is from the client, because of course they're the ones actually programming it and they see that, they're surrounded by it. You know what happens whenever you're, like, I've been stuck in that there before. Like, you know, I mean, I coach everyday people, but I love bodybuilding and I coach bodybuilding clients too. So I mean, John comes off the street and you're trying to explain to them what a top and back off set is. Like, realistically, he's better just off of 3 sets of 10, and we'll just start from there and get going, you know.
Right. So tell me,
that's probably just, go ahead.
As someone that works with a broad range, how would you differentiate your programming in terms of volume specifically towards bodybuilding client and John from off the street?
When you start, you don't. You literally have to all start at the same point and then fix it from there. Unless, of course, you have a bodybuilding client that comes to you, like yourself. If you were to come to me, you probably already have a rough idea of what's actually happening, how you're reacting to things. So that's probably how I would differ the programming. Otherwise, I wouldn't really. After a conversation, you can guess where someone's at, but the reality of coaching is that you're just getting really good at guessing. Really, really good. And the only time that we actually have a finalised answer is whenever people start. So that's whenever the personal side of it comes in. That's whenever we can adjust volume, we can adjust food, we can adjust whatever they need. But at the very start, like, that's the answer, mate. There isn't an answer right away.
Yeah, no, I get that. So it takes more. Refining your approach comes from not trial and error, but like being able to assess how the initial baseline program or baseline volume is affecting. You can adjust from there. But another issue I'd see with volume, which you touched on there as well, is auto-regulating volume. So I think a mistake is that never changes. Your volume is just set in stone and that's it. Like, your volume can adapt and should adapt depending on your skill level and the phase that you're in as well. Like, if you are in a growth phase, for example, you can probably get away with and recover from a bit more volume. So don't be afraid to do more than 2 sets. You're probably going to be okay. You're probably not going to create too much fatigue. You probably don't have that much muscle that you can't recover from doing 3 sets on a bicep curl or a lateral raise.
Do you have any rules of thumb for that? Of when to have like an overview of the program, when to adjust, etc. If somebody is just not stuck in their ways, but you know they're on autopilot. They go in and do the same thing over and over again, and they are making progress, but maybe they could be getting a wee bit more.
Yeah, you can always sprinkle in then a little bit more volume, especially if they're recovering well, if they're still progressing, if they're feeling good, if they're not suffering with this excessive soreness getting into sessions. Then let's say, right, we'll maybe add a bit of volume here across this muscle group, across this area that we want to work, and if you're and assess them from there. Of course, like, you're not going to know what your the maximal recoverable volume you can recover from is if you never increase your volume. So you almost maybe have to reach a point where you're doing too much, and then that's okay, because from there you can just pull back. So you almost need to, like, at a time, experiment with higher volumes or redlining and seeing how much you can get away from or get away with, and from there then you probably be able to find your sweet spot. So when I look at volume, minimal effective volume is where you would start. Typically that's going to be like 6 to 12 working sets per muscle group. Generally, it's a good rule of thumb. And then your maximum recoverable volume is going to be like anywhere from 12 to like the higher end, 24 sets or something, for example, per muscle group. But your sweet spot is going to be something in between that. And that's where you want to spend the majority of your time. So if you're in a sweet spot, you're progressing well, you're growing well, don't really need to change too much. You can always add a bit of volume, and if you can continue to recover, happy days. If you find that extra volume is taken away from your quality or taken away from your recovery, you can always pull back, but you won't know where that is unless you find out, unless you actually push your volume up a bit.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add to that there is just remember it's not a video game. At the end of the day, we can't actually just continue to push in more and more and expect to get more from it. We just need to find, like you say, that effective dose that is actually going to work for you.
Yeah. Just a second, man. I'm going to run to the bathroom here.
Go for it. To sort of touch on what Emmett was saying, I probably come from a bit of a background, or even the people I trained with at a younger age, they would have actually pushed on a bit too much. And to be honest, I think that's way better than... Oh, shit. I'm going to stop talking because it's echoing across Emmett's room. It's the way till he pisses. I wonder if I can mute him. No. Everyone that's listening to this, she's text Emmett and give him the equivalent to how big his bladder actually is.
I surpassed my maximal recoverable volume there of fluids going in this morning, so
I tried to talk on, but I started echoing across the room and it sounded terrible, so I just waited. But I was saying that I probably come from a bit more of a background of training where we did rip the absolute bollocks out of it, and it's probably why I'm so good at dealing with injuries.
In terms of doing too much volume when you were starting off and trying to do more and more?
Yeah.
Based off enjoying it, or just trying to like get as much out of your training? I call it weaponized autism. I just became obsessed. I absolutely loved the gym, and I don't even think I was training to get bigger anymore. I was just bored, and it was like I put all my eggs in that basket. I was training twice a day sometimes because like I had nothing to do in the evenings, and my girlfriend was busy studying, and I just didn't study. That. So I've been there as well. It's just like you want to spend that time in the gym, so like you experiment, you do as much as possible, and it's not necessarily a bad thing at the start having that like experimental element of training, and that's where you learn a lot too. So,
and I still do that to this day.
Yeah, at the time you were a bit more probably of a beginner, and maybe that volume is serving you a bit better. But now as your skill level has obviously increased with your years of training, so you don't need as much anyway. But yeah, volume's the dose, and it's measured by hard sets. In summary, you need to be doing enough to grow. Don't be afraid to increase volume. It doesn't have to be fixed. It shouldn't stay fixed. It should be refined, and it should adjust with your programming, your phase that you're in, your recovery capacity. Also worth considering as well, though, there is an inverse relationship between volume and intensity, which means basically the higher your intensity goes, the lower volume typically must go as well. Which is why you will see that top set, back off set that I've mentioned, 2 working sets. When your intensity is a lot higher, the amount of load you're lifting is a lot higher. You don't need as many sets to create the maximum amount of stimulus, and any more than that's probably going to take away from the stimulus that you're able to produce. And then another thing on top of that is the higher you take volume, the more additional sets that you will actually need to get a return of investment. So once you start increasing volume beyond a certain point, you're going to need a lot more additional sets for that additional work to really count towards hypertrophy.
Yeah, well, that's where we definitely start running into the problem, especially from a coaching aspect that we see often, is that coaches try and keep it interesting by changing machines changing movements instead of just giving you multiple sets on the same movement and explaining to you why.
Yeah. So like, this is another big thing, and enjoyment probably doesn't come from chopping and changing everything, and novelty and variance. It comes from progress. If you're progressing at a specific movement, you're actually getting better. You're becoming more skilled at that movement. You're feeling a better connection. You're seeing more progress off the back of that. That's where the enjoyment comes in. Enjoyment doesn't come from chopping and changing everything. That probably takes away from your enjoyment, because you don't really see progress doing that, because you're not sticking to anything long enough for consistently to see a return of investment there. I think in terms of training, that covers everything like that we broke down there: intensity, execution, progressive overload, and a misunderstanding of that potentially, volume, paralysis by analysis, and then probably arguably something that's as important as any is that time and consistency aspect. So I think that covers like basically everything where you could be going wrong in training. The next thing if everything's your training's absolutely nailed,
could I just
still
take a wee box before we move on? Just something that we didn't mention. That consistency also equals skill adaptation for movements. Time back into your enjoyment that you're talking about there. If you're switching movements consistently, you don't actually get better at them. But that's me. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's a good point as well. Skill acquisition is needed to be able to progress too, and that just comes from time spent doing the same thing and being able to stick to an approach for long enough. But once that's covered, if you're nailing your training and you're still not seeing progress, the next thing I would look at then is nutrition. Dive into that.
Nutrition. What do you got for me?
Common mistakes or common problems that people experience with their nutrition, usually, again,
macro matching.
Isn't that a good thing?
I think some people what they expect and what the execution is are two different things.
Too much flexibility, you think?
Yeah, way too much. Not understanding.
Yeah.
Do you think? Sorry, I can cut you off. My bad. I've loaded this one up, but I think everybody should spend a certain amount of time on a diet plan before they allow themselves to go off and macro match, to solidify a foundation of good eating, timing, and also understand what good nutrients is as well.
I think there's definitely a good application towards following a meal plan as opposed to an if it fits your macros approach. 100%. Again, as you said, it's going to learn that skill of what good actually looks like. But it's also going to allow you to find an approach that you can be consistent with, where you're not second guessing every decision that you're making. And I suppose there's a bit of a hybrid you can come to, where you build your own meal plan, or build a meal plan that works for you, that meets your goals, but also you enjoy, that you can follow consistently. Because I think the biggest bottleneck to nutrition is, again, similar to training, being able to find a consistent approach. Usually you don't need a better diet, you just need a more consistent one that you can stick to for long enough that you can see results from. This inconsistency usually stems from an all or nothing mindset. Is one of the most common I see in terms of mistakes. Like, people think that they're all in with their nutrition, they're quote unquote eating good, or once they stray away from that slightly, it's nothing, it's carnage. So that's that all or nothing mindset. We don't want that. You want to find an approach that you can stick to for long enough that you enjoy, that you're able to adhere to. And then I think another thing with inconsistency comes through the weekends. So your weekday diet and your weekend diet is just night and day, so different, where it shouldn't really be. Like, again, if you're finding that approach that you can adhere to, it should be able to last over the weekend as well. Yes, you maybe have a bit more flexibility on the weekend depending on your lifestyle, depending on what you're doing, but like your overall nutrition as a whole needs to factor into your 7-day week, not just Monday to Friday.
I think people neglect that whenever they're making the big plan. Is that the weekend's coming and the average person has a 9 to 5 job, and you're not actually realizing it, but that structure keeps you on plan a lot of the time. And whenever you have that access to a lot more free time, and you're getting up that wee bit later, and then your mates, etc., like, you should be planning those days ahead. This is something I say to clients like so often. On a Monday, you should be cracking open the Google Calendar. If you work 9 to 5, it should be saying 9 to 5 there, and it should be going, okay, that's whenever this meal, that meal, and then we do the same thing for the Saturday and Sunday. We work around it, and that's it too. It's macro matching is not a way of life. It's a skill that you add to your day-to-day life so that it becomes easier.
Yeah, you can't macro match, or you can't follow an if it fits your macros approach until you have a good, solid understanding of nutrition and your nutritional needs. So that's why, like as Donald said, and I would definitely be an advocate for it as well, big proponent of a meal plan, especially early on, so you can get an idea of maybe what you should be doing. And of course that meal plan, if you're working with a coach, they'll be able to adapt that to, like, again, cater into your enjoyment, your preferences and stuff as well. And if you can follow that approach for long enough, then you can add a bit more flexibility, because you have that understanding. Whereas if you try and just from the off, I'm going to go into MyFitnessPal and track my food, but every day is a lottery. You don't know what you're having day to day. You're tracking it and plugging it in as you go. So there's going to be a level there's going to be a level of inaccuracies there. There's also going to be definitely a reduction in quality of the food you take in, because you're just trying to almost fill the app as opposed to fill or meet your actual nutritional needs.
Yeah, well, do you know what? There's one person I'll definitely shout out, is Cameron Balmer. I know that he does this very well, but Cameron's approach, which I am all for, is he sits the night before and he will use MyFitnessPal and he will track the day that is coming. Yeah, so I'm for that, but even at that there, like, I think he has said before in the past that, he's putting in the same 5 meals more than likely.
Yeah, so it's not like he's not doing an if it fits your macros approach, really. He eats the same stuff.
It's like another layer of accountability, believe it or not.
Yeah,
because he's reminding himself that, like, that's his dad, that's what he's eating, this is what he's eating.
Yeah, he's having similar stuff day to day. Like, it's not, I guarantee it's not a lottery where he doesn't know what he's eating day to day. Like, those meals and the food sources and the makeup of that diet plan as a whole is going to be pretty much the same day to day. There might be a little bit of variance in there, which is fine, but again, that idea of plugging it in night before or morning of is great as well, because that again removes that decision element where you're doing it meal to meal and you're freestyling it as you go. Just because that's, I think it's a bit where it becomes a bit of a car crash, where decision fatigue creeps in. You're spending too much time on MyFitnessPal, whereas if you just input it the day before, it takes 5 minutes and you can crack on, and then it just means you need to have those meals that you've tracked, prepared and ready to go. Once you do that, you're laughing.
And this is talking from experience as well. I actually most recently did this on prep. I got a high day given to me, and I just got given the macros. I'm usually very good at doing exactly what Cameron does, like, and basically what you said, but to delve into it a wee bit more, just having like your 3 to 4 sources of carbs, of protein, of fats, and interchanging those. But I was sitting there on those high days, like you say, just the decision fatigue over me on prep was ridiculous. You're almost taking an anxiety attack because you want every meal to be the best meal ever. But the reality of it is that, you're still in the suck. It's still going to be hard.
Yeah, that's the thing as well with the downsides of it fits your macros. Trying to fit in as much fun as you possibly can, it's going to inevitably take away from the quality of those meals, and it's going to actually bottleneck and be counterproductive to adherence, because you're not going to be able to adhere to it, because there's just so much decision fatigue, paralysis by analysis, and inconsistency that goes into it. So it means like your approach, you don't really have clarity over it, so it's hard to execute it.
Yeah, I would, coming from my end of things, of like the way I do my sort of life in general, is that whenever we first opened the gym, we'd had fuck all here, and I'm not very good at prepping ahead of time, like all of my meals. I know you are quite good with this here. It's something I've just never been good at, to be honest, and it is down to lack of time more than anything in my job. I could delve into it, but let's just say that like what I'm saying is gospel. I just made sure that my environment worked better. So I bought a microwave for the gym, a toaster, an air fryer. I made sure that my diet plan was as simple as like foods that were non-perishables and perishables, and that I had access to them at all times. I bought a fridge, I brought a freezer for in here as well. And like I said, my diet actually has like a tier system. So it has like 3 tiers for carbohydrates, proteins and fats, and the bottom tier is things that I can just grab off the shelf and eat right now. The top tier is something that's prepared and I really enjoy. So if I haven't had the time, then I don't get what I enjoy. If I make the time and I'm accountable and I'm routined enough, then I get to enjoy the food that I like.
It sounds like it's a good tier. Give me an example of that, sort of what that looks like at bottom and top, so people know what they can maybe grab on the go or whatever.
A grab on the go bottom tier would be probably let's go carbohydrates, would be rice cake, square bar would be the 2 bottom, even just a plain bagel without being toasted. So they're my 3 I can grab on the go.
So that's a carb source. What about a protein source?
Protein source is protein shake. It's already pre-cooked chicken. I think they're the only 2, to be honest, that I really get access to.
Maybe yogurt could be a decent one there as well.
Yeah, yogurt one could. I like to actually prepare my yogurt, but yeah.
But
I think that'd be like a mid tier.
They can probably grab a yogurt in any sort of grocery store they want.
No, definitely agree. And then bottom tier fat sources would be dark chocolate, peanut butter, or oils.
Yeah. So in fairness, it's again, it comes down to being able to find an approach that works for you and you can adhere to. And like, although that mightn't be necessarily that you're doing what I'm doing and having every meal prepped in advance, there's a structure to that, and
there's rules.
There's rules as well. So I think lack of structure, eating at random times, eating random meals with no predictability, different meal day to day, thinking I need more variance, when in reality you don't, and more variance often leads to more decisions, more inconsistency with digestion, and just more difficult time adhering in general. So I think that in terms of structure is a big one. Another thing with structure is making sure that you prioritise the workout window, or you're maybe under fueling yourself for your training to the point where you're not getting as much out of your training as you could. And like, training is the light that matches the fire when it comes to physique development. So if you're not fueling yourself for that training session, you're leaving a lot of gains on the table there.
Yeah, well, even add that as well. I think if you are creating your own meal plan, or a coach even is creating a meal plan, just a nice wee one for going forward, is that you should probably be prioritising those meals as the first meals that you're actually going to program, and then everything else gets distributed after that, so they can just sort of go equally. So, for example, just putting the highest contributions of carbohydrates, protein and some fats, of course, towards that, and then from there whatever's left is going to be split across evenly across whatever amount of meals you usually go for. So the peri-workout window is the most important.
I know you said about time being a constraint when it comes to meal prepping, but see, because I eat similar foods, I don't have, like, it's majority whole foods, it's majority nutrient dense stuff, and it's the same week to week. It doesn't take me that long to prepare them, because I'm not preparing that many ingredients. You know, if we take a day of eating, for example, the pre-workout first meal of the day is cream of rice. Can prepare that night before, leave in the fridge, no problem. The second meal, chicken, rice, some veg, a bit of pineapple in there on the side. Third meal though is again rice, same carb source. So you just add, you can just batch cook the rice, beef mince, bit more veg as well, and then again that next meal after that, say pasta, turkey mince and veg. So you can just do the veg. You've got 3 protein sources, and then you've got your pre-workout meal, which doesn't take too long to prepare either. And then if you do that for maybe from Sunday to Wednesday, it honestly takes about an hour, and then on the Wednesday just top up then for the rest of the week, and that's like maybe 2 hours out of the week, but it removes a lot of stress and gives me a lot of clarity in terms of what I'm eating day to day. So
I mean, I'm not actually winging it from like morning and night. I do prep food. I actually just batch cook the protein sources because they take the longest. My carb sources are things that I genuinely don't need to put any effort into. So like I said, the rice cakes, the square bars, the oats, even use microwave rice as well. Would be my main go-tos. But I would love to have a bit more time and fucking sit and make potatoes and stuff like that. But again, I just don't allocate the time to it because what I'm doing right now works.
Yeah, but like basically what I'm saying, all I really am preparing there is veg, rice, pasta, and then 3 different types of meat, and you're just batching them accordingly for how many days you need it. Like, it doesn't take that long.
It's way too much effort, mate.
Priorities, isn't it?
That's pure sarcasm for anybody that's not on watching. But yeah, it is. And it also comes down to what you enjoy eating too. I enjoy what I eat, and so do you. So you see the benefit in doing that there. Whereas I've done that in the past, and I would rather allocate my time elsewhere because I get away with eating what I'm eating right now in terms of enjoyment, and it does the job. You know, there's still sources of good nutrients. You know,
enjoyment's a big factor too. If you don't enjoy your diet plan, you're not sticking to it. I absolutely love every single meal that I have, and I've built my diet plan out that ensures that I look forward to every meal. And I think the longer you eat the same meals, you don't get bored of them. You enjoy them more, I think.
It's you coming off plan. It's you coming off plan. It actually causes the problem.
So I think that.
Who's going?
Go.
Me, big 28-year-old now. Since it was my birthday 2 days ago. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. I think that
speaking about strength and plan is what actually
causes the problem. No, I've lost it. Go. Sorry.
I think we've covered nutrition, and we've covered training. I think the last thing to consider,
the section me and you put in our initial coaching, where it's like I call it setting standards. I can't remember what you call yours. Sort of basically spending a bit of time trying to get everything right. That's your troubleshooting window to actually tell us that and communicate that I don't actually like eating this food that you've put in the fucking plan.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. That's it. That's what that's for. Troubleshoot that you don't like eating that food.
Yeah, there's no like set food that you have to eat as well, or like optimal diet plan. It's going to be catered around what you can stick to for long enough. As long as you're meeting your needs in terms of macronutrients, you're going to be absolutely fine. But enjoyment is a big factor in that. So like, don't think you have to eat something. Like I see it all the time, people forcing in a meal, and then I was like, do you even enjoy that? It's like, nah, but it's good for me, so I eat it. Like, you know, these people in work here eating or drinking these extravagant smoothie shakes, and almost like pinching their nose and necking it, so they can get it out of the way as soon as possible, but they're not enjoying it. It's like, of course you're not sticking to that approach for too long, and you're going to revert back and yo-yo back and forth because you haven't found an approach that you yet actually can stick to for long enough.
Yeah, like for example, especially whenever we hear the phrase of like bodybuilding foods, like I don't like cream of rice. Like I'll eat it on a diet out of pure necessity for volume of food, but I just don't like it, and that's it.
Sacrilegious.
I don't care.
You do
Suck
like it.
my ass.
I've seen you. You do like it. You do. Like it.
You sound like every Irish man. You do. You love it. Ways up.
You do. Just eat it.
I don't.
No, you do.
Mate,
like
I have a quick story before you actually go on. It is quite fast, but I actually ended up with one of Helmy Denini's clients on. Big Helmy.
Yes.
Yeah, most people know Big Helmy. He told me this story, and I never knew who the story was about until I got this client on, and then figured it out. And they won't make me talking about it, but basically, this client, they cannot eat vegetables. Dead stop, right? And I just took his word for it, because I'm like, do you know what? If you're going to be honest with me, that's completely fine. That's on you. Helmy doesn't take things like that there very well, so he wanted proof. He got him on a Zoom call and forced him to eat broccoli and watched him vomit it all up and gag, and just couldn't even put it in his mouth. So
that's a bit extreme, isn't it? That's like almost like that meme of the person trying to force broccoli into them, if you've ever seen that.
I think I have.
You don't have to. This is a disclaimer. You don't have to eat broccoli if you don't like it. You don't have to be forced broccoli trees into you. For the
or cream of rice, folks. Or cream of rice. You just don't have to go near it.
There's no must. There's no must do. There's definitely things that boxes you need to tick, but there's definitely not a must eat food. I don't think, really.
Right. Let's swiftly move on to some lifestyle and habits, routine, that kind of stuff.
You need to have an alignment between your goals that you set and your actions. Your actions and your goals need to align. A lot of that comes down to what you not your training, not your nutrition, what you're doing outside of that, and that's where lifestyle comes into it.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing, the biggest thing there is routine, is having a routine in place that allows you to be set up for success, and that just is through like having a basic structure to your day. I think that speaks to a lot of the things we've already spoke about when it comes to nutrition and training, in fairness, around that structure and that clarity that remove decision fatigue. Same with your lifestyle and your routine. If your routine is fighting against your goals in terms of like your training and your nutrition or your physique goals, it's an uphill battle then. So even if you have your training and your nutrition locked in place, if your lifestyle doesn't align, you're going to be leaving a lot on the table. So they all work in sync.
I would say the big umbrella term that we're probably going to use here with lifestyle is stress. All these things cause stress, and when we have high stress, we have no enjoyment, and we see everything we're doing as a task from there on in.
So how do we manage our stress? What would you say is a key ways of managing stress?
We find the path of least resistance on everything, and then we build off of that there as a foundation. So what I mean by that there is, like you say, finding the foods that actually work, even the training that actually works and you enjoy, and then starting to build on that, creating better habits. You know, you didn't absolutely fall in love with cream of rice right away, you know. It was built up. It was adding the small things into it. It was making an enjoyable meal. It was making it you, and that's it. It's putting your personality, putting your stamp on it, that's going to make the big difference in high stress versus like no enjoyment. It's going to be where you add your personality to it.
Yeah, I would agree with
Thoughts?
that. Yeah, I think having a good routine in place is so important. Of course, a routine that works around your lifestyle, but for an example, having a basic morning and evening routine set in place.
I was about to say, we blame that off so often. What does a, not to put you in the spot, what does a good routine mean to you?
Like, a good routine is practices you have in place that sets your day up in a way that allows you to execute with as little friction as possible. I always think having a good morning routine and setting your day up at the start of the day doesn't have to be anything extravagant like you see online of the guy that done the 3-hour morning routine.
He does the ice in the water and all.
Yeah, that's just a load of fluff. But like, I have a good morning routine in place where I wake up at the same time every day. It's very simple, and I go for a walk in the morning. de-stress first thing. I do a bit of journaling, write down thoughts and plans for the day, and then I can crack on with my day. That is like as basic as it gets, really, in the way of a morning routine for me.
And it doesn't have to be that, but that's a fucking brilliant example of it. We talked for about 5 minutes before we came on there, and I said like that's so far from my morning routine, but I find every task that you did there now, I find time for it somewhere else. And the one I've implemented this year that has made a fucking hell of a difference, is waking up at the same time every single day. Oh my god, like I didn't realise what I was missing. I would do it Monday to Friday, and even letting that Saturday and Sunday slip, I didn't realise how much I was slipping up.
Most people would probably be the same there, where it's like having a lion on the weekend. It feels nice, but like it makes the Monday Friday routine a lot harder.
I used to see it as necessary, not even like a nice thing to do. It was like, fuck, I really need this.
But once I'm setting the routine now, it's honestly, I love it so much that like probably Sunday morning starting the podcast around 5 a.m. And I can do that because I'm up at that time anyway. It's like part of my routine, so it's absolutely fine. But like if you can control,
also added that other layer of accountability as well. Like you have to be up now for a podcast, and it's the main reason why I did it, to be honest, because I could have easily slept in on a Sunday.
Yeah. So morning routine. So you're controlling the start of your day. You're controlling the evening routine as well. So you're having some practices in the evening that allow you to wind down. Essentially, like the middle of the day might be absolute chaos. You can't control necessarily everything that happens throughout the day, but you can definitely control how the day starts and how the day finishes. And if you have that under your control, it's going to make your day to day, I think, run a lot smoother, and just give you a lot less stress. So it's about that stress management. I think routine plays a big factor in that. Training at the same time. I see like too many like inconsistent training times. I might train today, I might do this session at this time, and some days you're training in the morning, some days you're training in the evening. If you can find a time where you can train consistently, again, it just almost, it makes that part of your structure. You get used to training quickly at that time. You guys probably perform better at that time because your body's used to it as well. Going through that like stress response at a certain time in the gym.
I would again sort of jump onto the other side of that there, and constantly making the same mistakes every single fucking day is a big problem. Like you wonder why you end up in that exact same position at that exact same time of the day with the exact same problem or barrier. It's because you've led the day up to be exactly like that, but you just need to backtrack, even write it, make a note of it, and realize that it's a problem that you continue to cause.
Yeah, like even that morning routine I have in place, even if it's so simple on paper, but if I didn't have that in place and say I was sleeping in and then chasing my tail the rest of the day, it's going to make everything else I do, you're almost going to feel like you're always chasing your tail. You're never on top of things, you're never in control. You want to be able to find a routine that gives you back control over your life.
Give me an example of like a brief one of how your day is currently laid out, and then if you were to wake up 2 hours later.
My day currently I had set up at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
So wake up at 4:30 a.m. Hydrate, go to the bathroom, weigh myself, hydrate, eat my first meal of the day that's already prepared, because if it wasn't, then it's going to take a lot longer. My gym clothes are already laid out the night before as well. That's part of the evening routine. Again, a lot less time running about in the morning. Get my gym gear on, eat my food, then I'll head for a quick walk, go to the gym, train. After my training's done, I'm on the commute to, typically at the minute it's school holidays, but I'm on the commute down to school, probably 2 hour round trip usually. On the train, then I'm in school 9 to 3 o'clock, and after that make my way home, and then it's bits and pieces of work and things like that, and then trying to wind down in the evening for 7 o'clock so I can relax, maybe do a bit of reading, spend a bit of time with the missus, and then get ready and go to bed.
And if you were to accidentally sleep in by 2 hours, you've probably
if I
missed
sleep in by
so
2
much
hours, so
training's pushed back after
So
work.
if I-
You know, you're missing
yeah.
time.
So if I slept in then the 6, I would be like, and it has happened once because of the podcast. So because we were recording it late my time one night, I actually needed a bit more time in bed. So this is a real life example of what happened, how I troubleshooted it. Now it wouldn't be ideal, and it added a bit of stress, but woke up a bit later, didn't have time to train in the morning. I like training in the morning and getting that out of the way and starting the day with some physical activity before the day of chaos ensues. So I didn't get to do that. I just had to almost get ready, head to work, and then train afterwards, where you're probably already mentally drained from the day itself, which is why I would say a lot of people who work a typical 9 to 5 job, especially if they're desk based, go and train before you get to work so you don't have to have that another decision to make afterwards. But I had that decision to make. I went and trained in the gym. It was a bit later then, settling down, because my nervous system, and I'd got myself into almost like you need to be in a sympathetic dominant state to train. It took me a lot longer to wind down, I found, in the evening. My last meal was a bit later, so digesting that and stuff took a bit longer, and it just means you are having to push that. You're going to sacrifice sleep quality or sleep time down the line if I was to do that day to day. So that wouldn't run well for how my day needs to run, which is like that has to be a one-off.
And if you don't troubleshoot that as well as you did as well, it carries on to the next day as well.
Yeah,
Like,
so then
that could easily set you back another 2 hours again.
Yeah, a late night, and then my routine then has to be pushed forward, and I'm waking up late then. So very easy to let those things slip. But once you have a good routine in place that works for you, you want to make sure that you stick to that, because you see the benefits of it. So yeah, I think routine is probably like the big one. One thing we touched on there is sleep. Having a consistent sleep and wake time, so important. Even on the weekends, try and wake up at a similar time. If you want to give yourself a bit of a buffer on a Saturday, Sunday, which I sometimes do, 30 minutes to an hour, not going to make too much of a difference. You can do that. Just don't make it like 3-4 hours difference, and then there's so much variance that it makes the Monday to Friday and sticking to the routine difficult and adds more friction essentially. Having good practices around your sleep too is important, in terms of like sleep hygiene.
Sleep is king, folks.
So whatever helps you wind down and get a good night's sleep is going to help you manage your stress. It's also, when it comes to recovery, it's your best tool for recovery that we have, especially as natural athletes. Sleep is like almost the PED there.
Oh, it really is. Really is.
Like, because something I almost touched on there, exercising late at night. Like, research would almost suggest as well that exercise should probably finish at least 4 hours before bedtime, because that strenuous bout of activity you have it's just gonna elevate your heart rate, and it's gonna take a while to come back down. So if you train in the evening, that's something to consider as well, I think.
You've been diving into the Huberman Labs, haven't you?
Not even Huberman Labs. I think that was mass research.
Why we sleep. Oh yes, you sent me that earlier. I might actually dive into that there on the flight tomorrow.
Yeah, do. Flights, you can get so locked in on a flight.
Good 2 hours of studying coming up.
No sleep.
Sure, who needs it?
I think another thing, mate, maybe to again discuss around your lifestyle. So what we've mentioned, routine, sleep, stress management, all those things really important. What also is conducive to that is the people you have around you, like your circle.
Yeah, I shouted this from the rooftops in prep about my support system was absolutely phenomenal, mate. Absolutely phenomenal. I wouldn't have changed them for the world. They were amazing.
How much easier does that make things, rather than if people in your circle weren't aligned with your goals or weren't supportive of it? Just it adds so much friction, doesn't it?
Yeah, mate. Like, to give you an example, I have a fiance that understood like what I was going through and how it was actually happening, and she knew where to support me, what to support me with. She also knew when to give me a bye ball and things, that I was just being, you're not the best version of yourself on prep. Is the truth. Well, I wasn't anyway. I had friends that again knew when to push and pull, knew whenever that I needed to kick up the hole, and told the fucking ways up. I also knew whenever just to leave me alone too. Parents, you name it, everybody just fell in the order, and it was, I'll be honest, the hardest part was actually relying on other people, because usually I'm the go-to guy,
You want to be self-reliant, but yeah, you almost have to lean into your support system a bit more, which is fine if it's the right support system. What would you say to someone that maybe isn't surrounded by, maybe someone wants to, it's a very common example, someone wants to start, get a bit healthier, train a bit more, get into better shape, but they're surrounded by people who don't really have no interest in that, and maybe they aren't pushing them or supporting them towards that. What would you say to those people?
I would say that if the people around you are actually your friends, your family, the people that actually support you, it doesn't matter if they have an interest or not. Like, I have friends and family that are into things and wholeheartedly into things and passionate about things that I have not a fucking clue about, but here, like, just that feeling that they give off because of how passionate they are, like, I would do anything for them because of that. Like, to give you an example, my brother loves diffing, if you know what that is. Loves going out in cars and fucking raking them, right? And controls manners. He goes to events and stuff. Loves drifting basically. And I like cars, but I don't understand that end of things. But I support him. I ask him about it. I try and push him on. I try and sort of spark those same questions that I get asked about bodybuilding. Like, how's it going? What are you doing next? How do you progress in this here? Is there anything you could be doing better? That kind of stuff.
Just having people that are genuinely interested and who care about what you're doing, and support it. They don't have to agree with it. They don't have to do it themselves. But if they support it and they understand, they see the benefit or the passion you have for something, then they want you to do as best as possible, and they want to support that. But if you have people, I always find, if they don't, or they maybe are a bad influence on you, for example, again, like your mates are telling you to wise up, stop going, you're going to the gym too often,
one out in a drink,
stop, why are you tracking your food, that's so obsessive, all these common things that people come up with, and even like work colleagues making comments and stuff from work is very like a common thing that people have to deal with.
That is usually a reflection of their own insecurities, to be deadly honest. But in terms of this topic, Emmett, I think you're the perfect person to ask. Like, you have a fiance that isn't exactly a bodybuilder, but you want to be a bodybuilder, so how does it work?
Yeah, again, it works through the same thing that you just touched on there, support. So necessarily might not understand bodybuilding at all, like whatsoever, but understands that it's what I want to do. So, and understands like what it gives me as well, in terms of like purpose, and sees my routine and how much better that is, as opposed to 5 years ago when I didn't have that, and it would have been more going out drinking, not looking after myself, which is a complete flip now, where I haven't drank in over 3 years, and you see the difference there. And just a little a flex there as well, mate. But you see the difference there, and like the benefits. If you're living with someone first hand, you're going to support that, even if necessarily what they're doing isn't what you want to do. It doesn't really matter in that sense. But like, if you have people that are dragging you down or trying to steer you away from what you're doing because it doesn't align with what they think you should be doing or what they're doing, all that is doing is shine the light, like holding a mirror up to them, and that's the reason that as you said, the insecurity comes in. But if you're secure enough and confident enough in what you're doing, disregard that. If someone's continually though draining you and dragging you down, don't be afraid to discard that person completely. You don't need to surround yourself with those sort of people who aren't going to be supporting you in your goals. So it's about upgrading your environment sometimes as well, and you will find sometimes like you outgrow people who you were with for long periods of time when you start to do better and you're not maybe engaging in the poor habits and per lifestyle practice you used to, and those people are continuing to do that year after year, it comes a point where you do almost have to go your own way, and you will find like-minded individuals if you continue on that path anyway. Like, you'll always find your people here.
That is, and that's okay as well, you know. But like you said there, that sort of in between, like, there's three types of people. There are the people that will completely sacrifice what their goals are and stay exactly where they are. There's the people in the middle that, and I see this so often, they find the love and passion they have in going to the gym, making progress, and they try and bring everybody with them. And that's, you know, you end up with one person and the next minute you've got 10 referrals because all their mates want to join. You're like, what is going on here? What is happening? But they've actually been an amazing influence on that group, and you see them all changing slowly but surely. Like, that's fucking, I love seeing that. See, especially in young men, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Like, one of them's just the wee sheep that sort of went off by himself by accident almost, and then the next minute
maybe
you got
got
the whole flock.
maybe got a bit of a hard time or at the beginning, but then when you see the progress, you definitely will shortly follow suit. So like, if you're on that path, then I would say keep pursuing and searching for better, and the people you're with, you'll either positively influence them, or you will be able to find an environment that's more suited to you, and people that are more supportive of you.
Yeah, as we are two unks, to make an up-to-date reference, you can also be the person that is the lone penguin, going off by themselves into the wilderness, if you know what that is. You don't? Oh my god, Emmett. I'll send you it. It's all about this documentary of a penguin going off by himself in a different direction than every other penguin went.
I like it.
I'll send it. Yeah, it's cool as fuck.
Also, not because, obviously you're going to say because you're a coach you're saying this, but when it comes to your support system as well, see, having a coach, how much that adds to your support system, and that sense of accountability, which, okay, you may have friends who are supportive of you, but they're not necessarily going to hold you to account and make sure that you're upholding that standard, which a coach is going to do. So I think having a coach in your system, in your support circle, is massive too. It's been a massive influence on me, which is why we've spoke about it in no end now, but having a coach is a bit of a cheat code.
Yeah, it's like you're paying for a friend. It's amazing. It's complete sarcasm. Yeah.
It's true.
I just pay Ben to be my best friend, so they no, 100%, mate. Like, you've bought someone's service, and if they're a good coach, they'll be there for you every single step of the way. And especially if they're passionate about what they do. Like, I love what I do. I really do. And I get excited for every single win. Like, I actually just got a WhatsApp message there now, and it was someone telling me that he made it to the next level of what the NHS's fucking physiotherapy is. And I'm like, that's amazing. It's amazing that he is absolutely fucking killing it. And I also got another message that is people that are fucking 15 days out from prep, 3 days out from weighing in for a fight. Like, I just love all the wins. They make me so happy. Like, so from a coach's end, like, you know, like, we really do support it. Fuck me, we get as excited as you do about these wins. Another big one, like, you should probably share your wins with your coach more often. That's a big review on where you are. I think too many people just give across the problems for the solution and the negatives. The big review comes whenever the positives come across.
Like, the thing you touched on there, one of those wins wasn't necessarily about coaching, but no doubt that the coaching process has a positive impact on your life as a whole. Like, if you're bettering yourself physically, mentally, your work performance is going to be better, your relationships are going to improve, your mood, your focus, everything else will come with that. So physique development is always the match that lights a fire, I think, too.
Yeah, big time. Is there anything that we haven't touched on? I don't think so, one. Mate. I have one wee bit that I've wrote there, but I don't know where it sort of comes from. I think it's more to do with what you said at the very, very start, but it's just pseudoscience. It is applying things it's bro science, the things that don't actually help at all. And you've just heard it off of some randomer. But
Yeah.
I think that was all I had wrote down in my notes, really.
I think that's
Cover
us, mate.
everything.
Well,
Wow, I know.
we've covered a lot.
It almost feels weird ending at this time, doesn't it?
We're gonna go again with the mini pod. I'm looking forward to the mini pod on back training.
Back.
So
Yes. So we're going to try and do a quick 30-minute segment on back training. And we're going to try and break down what back training is, what you need to do, where you're going wrong, problems, questions that people probably have, and some S tier exercises as well, I believe, are going to come in. Something very hip.
So we'll leave that 1 hour then, and we'll get stuck into the mini pod. Definitely tune in for the mini pod if you're interested in the intricacies of training, because we're going to break that down quite heavily.
Yeah. Folks, have a great... I don't even know where we're at. I'm going to have a great night. Amit, have an excellent day. And folks, keep fucking killing it. We'll see you in next week's episode.
Slán go fáil.
Slán go fáil.